Fall sports are back on campus, and with that comes some guidance from the Ithaca College Athletic Department. IC will be operating at full capacity for all sporting events this year, but require a facial covering like this for all indoor events. As for the outdoor events, Ithaca is only requiring that you wear a face mask if you are unvaccinated and within 6 feet of other spectators. The Cornell men's golf team will play host to the Cornell Invitational this weekend, but the event has a new home on this occasion as the Big Red and 9 other schools will be on the road in New Jersey at the Watchung Valley Golf Club. I'm standing outside of Higgins Stadium where the Ithaca College field hockey team fell to SUNY New Paltz by a score of 3-0. The Bombers fell behind by 2 goals at the end of the first quarter and just couldn't generate anything on the offensive side of the field. I had a chance to speak with head coach Caitlin Wahila, and she told me that she was happy with the way that her team played in the second half. The Bombers outshot the Hawks despite not scoring a goal. The Ithaca College men's basketball program has announced they have hired Connor Dow to be its new assistant head coach. Dow most recently was the interim head coach of the Saskatchewan Rattlers of the Canadian Elite Basketball League. As an assistant coach for the Rattlers, he was promoted halfway through the season, and from that point on, the Rattlers averaged 10 more points per game than they did during the first half. Dow will join first-year head coach Waleed Fareed as 2 new faces to the Ithaca College coaching staff this year. I'm standing outside of Butterfield Stadium where normally the annual Cortica Jug football game between Ithaca and Cortland is played. But the athletic department has just announced that next year, Cortica will be on the road at Yankee Stadium. The biggest little game in the nation will be played on a national stage for the second time in 4 years. Although it's unclear as to what the capacity will be for Yankee Stadium, both schools have insisted they want to break the single game record in attendance, which was initially set back in 2019 when both of these teams squared off at MetLife Stadium. Brooklyn Nets all-star point guard Kyrie Irving could potentially lose millions of dollars. According to ESPN, the NBA and the NBA Players Association agreed to a reduction in pay that amounts to $191.6 of a player's salary for each game an unvaccinated player misses due to local COVID-19 mandates. Right now, New York and San Francisco have COVID-19 restrictions that could stand to impact players on the Knicks, Nets, and Warriors. If Irving does remain unvaccinated, the team will have to make a decision whether to allow Irving to come and go with the team in and out of New York or just keep him sidelined altogether. The New York Mets have announced they are not bringing back manager Luis Rojas, according to the New York Daily News. Rojas went a combined 103 and 119 as the manager and failed to reach the playoffs during his 2-year tenure. Rojas had a team option in his contract for the 2022 season, but the Mets will not be picking it up. Instead, New York will now begin its search for its 4th different manager in the last 5 seasons. The long wait is over. The Ithaca College Department of Athletics officially inducted the 51st Hall of Fame class Friday evening. 10 individuals were enshrined into the illustrious Hall of Fame after waiting more than a year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Director of Athletics Susan Bassett said, quote, "The wait to celebrate our 51st Hall of Fame class was long overdue, and we were excited to finally bring them back to campus to honor their distinguished careers. Congratulations to our newest members of the Hall of Fame." We pick it up with about a minute gone in the second quarter, 4th and 1 for the Bombers. No score until now. A.J. Wingfield showing off the speed as he keeps it himself, dragged into the end zone for his first rushing touchdown of his collegiate career as the flags fly on the play, and the Bombers lead this one at 7-0. After an Anthony Robinson interception returned to the Hobart 26-yard line, sophomore track star Jalen Leonard Osborne dives his way into the end zone for his second touchdown of the season, gives the Bombers a 2-possession lead. Talked a lot about the dynamic duo of Tim Denham Jr. and Rayshon Boswell coming into this matchup. Denham Jr. got Hobart on the board just before the half. Now it's Boswell with his second touchdown reception of the season as he makes the catch in the back of the end zone. All of a sudden, this game is now tied. A few minutes later, it was Boswell again, but this time on the ground. A 70-yard rushing touchdown to give Hobart their first lead of the game as he outruns everyone. On this Ithaca defense, Hobart scored touchdowns on 3 straight possessions, including 21 straight points. Boswell had 2 touchdowns and 140 yards total. First and goal from the 6-yard line, only a matter of time before we see sophomore running back Jalen Hines. He takes the handoff and rumbles into the end zone to tie the game at 21 apiece. Hines finished with 89 yards on the ground and this rushing touchdown. After a stop by the Ithaca defense, it was Wingfield again. This time it was through the air to his All-Liberty League receiver, Andrew Vito. as he makes the catch, a beautiful throw-in catch, to give the Bombers the lead midway through the fourth quarter. Vito finished with 5 catches for 69 total yards on the day. Hobart, though, would get one last chance late in the fourth quarter. Statesman driving down the field, 16 seconds on the clock. No timeouts left as Cruson loses the ball, then can't get out of bounds as he tries to evade this Ithaca defense. They hold, and Ithaca wins 28-21 in a hard-fought, back-and-forth game. IC improves to 4-0 on the season and are now 1-0 in conference play. Next up for the Bombers will be another Liberty League matchup, this time with the University of Rochester Yellow Jackets, with kickoff at noon on Saturday. The Ithaca College men's soccer team is set to play Skidmore College in the Liberty League semifinals on Saturday. One of the unsung heroes of IC is senior goalkeeper Lee Folger. Folger has allowed the fewest goals and has the highest save percentage among all goalies in the Liberty League. This season has been the first time the North Carolina native has received the full-time starting role, and he's taken full advantage of the opportunity. But the path to get to this point consisted of a lot of uncertainty and perseverance. When college athletes are recruited at the Division III level, many are not guaranteed playing time or even a spot on the team. This was the case for Ithaca goalkeeper Lee Folger, who took a chance deciding to play for the Bombers.
It wasn't a relationship where they were really excited to have me. It was more of like, this is a good kid, and if it works out where we can have him on the roster, I'm sure he'll be a good addition to the team culture. But it wasn't someone they weren't hunting me down to be the next starter or anything like that.
Folger eventually found himself on the team, but struggled to find any playing time. The reason? The Bombers had another goalkeeper named Max Lichtenstein, who transferred from the University of Memphis.
Which sucked for me, because when I committed, I didn't even know about him. I didn't know he was coming. I don't think the coaching staff knew he was coming when I committed.
Despite this, Folger put in long hours on the practice field and earned himself the role of team captain during his junior season, even though he was not a starter.
People still voted for him, which a lot of the times you see teams who have captains of guys who, they play 90 minutes every game, which he is right now, which is awesome. But at the time, he got votes when he wasn't playing, which was really hard to do.
Going into his senior season, Folger had his eyes set on the starting goalkeeper role. But in the week leading up to his first start, he suffered an injury that kept him out of action for the foreseeable future.
So then I get hurt, and that was really hard. I was worried, because of the nature of the goalkeeping position, that I wasn't going to get another chance.
Folger fought through his injury, and 9 games into the season started the first game of his collegiate career against Hamilton College. 3 days later, Folger garnered Player of the Week honors for his performance against St. Lawrence University in a 2-0 shutout win.
For me to sit here and take a lot of credit for that would be silly and selfish, but it's fun to be along for the ride with some really good players.
Reporting from Ithaca, New York, Quintin Pelzel, Sports Weekly. The Ithaca College softball team received news on March 1st that they would actually have a softball season. Most of the players were excited, but there was also some concern.
Part of me also didn't want to get my hopes up in case something like last year happened again, so I was kind of timid up until our first game, but other than that, I was really just very excited, and I was looking forward to stepping on the field one last time.
Yeah, I think our initial reaction was kind of shock, as crazy as that may sound, but when your season is taken away kind of in a blink of an eye and you have a whole year to just sit and digest that, you are kind of in denial for most of it.
While the Bombers are led by their 7 seniors, they also rely heavily on first-year head coach Hannah Quintana. Quintana has had plenty of success here as a player, including 2 trips to the NCAA regionals. Now she'll look to bring that same winning attitude to the program as a coach.
To be honest, this is my dream job. It's been my dream job, since I was, 18 years old. So it felt surreal to actually be named the head coach.
With everything hanging in the balance, the Bombers do not feel any added anxiety.
I'm almost a little more laid back, and I'm taking some pressure off of myself. So I think COVID had a lot to do with that.
The Bombers have the talent to compete. They just need to stay positive.
And I think that if we can just keep that mindset throughout the season, then we can definitely go to the World Series.
Reporting from Ithaca, New York, Quintin Pelzel, Sports Weekly.